Welcome back to Blue Collar Speed and Repair. We're continuing progress on our 59 Chevy pickup here. I want to try to get this engine and transmission mounted today. Like usual, I don't have a lot of time, but try to see if we can fit it in our 59 with our narrowed 74 C10 front clip. So we have a small block Chevy 350, Tremec TKX 5-speed. This is the combination that was in the 74, the Rec C10 that we took the subframe out of. I have a couple goals in mind here. So obviously the narrowed front end, the stock motor mount locations aren't going to work. So I did get these aftermarket ones. These are just from Amazon. They're just, I think it was 35 bucks for a set. So we'll have to kind of custom mount some stuff. My goal is we need the engine low enough and far forward enough. I'm hoping we don't have to mess with the body at all, the firewall, as well as the top of the transmission's fairly flat. So I'm hoping it'll sit in here low enough, again, that we don't have to modify anything here, if at all possible. We'll kind of have to see how that goes. But I know the engine already has to come forward a little bit for clearance. We test fit it originally. So big thing when installing an engine, especially custom mounting it like we have to do, is the angle has to be correct. So the angle at the engine and most importantly the output shaft of the transmission is critical to set up your rear end. You want those equal and opposite angles, and we'll get into that when we get into the rear end and all that. But I believe when I set up this rear end, we were roughly 2.5 degrees. You want between 2 and 4. Typically 3 degrees is ideal. So I have a little angle finder, and I've been kind of walking around figuring out what I want to do or how to do it exactly. But this thing here, so I zeroed it off the lift. I know that this was level when we installed it, so basically I'm just going off of a baseline. And then I went off of our frame. And we're sitting about a degree angled backwards already, give or take. It's the same on both sides. I've already checked. So if you look at valve cover, as it sits on the stand, is actually fairly level. If you go off the intake and the carb mount, what did I do there? No, apparently I press hold. We're about 3 degrees angled that way, which is normal. So normally, again, that rake for the engine, roughly 2 to 4 degrees, 3 degrees is ideal. Intake manufacturers take that into account so that the carb sits level. So all that being said, when this sitting in the chassis, we're aiming for 2.5 degrees, if that makes sense. It does in my brain. I don't know if it's coming out correctly, but we'll see. And then of course we have to take the extra degree into angle. So ultimately we're aiming for 3.5 degrees, which is actually 2.5 degrees subdivided, carry the 1, all that good stuff. So I'm going to get this transmission mounted back to the engine, and I'm probably going to pull the rear wheels off, lower this thing down just before it sits, just before the rear end touches, so we have plenty of room to work. Then we got to bolt those mounts on, slide the whole thing in there, and see where we end up, because I'm not sure what's even going to happen. All right, before we slam this thing in here, I want to take the shifter off so it's not in our way. We'll tape it up, get those new mounts on, then we'll swing it in here. Getting ready to put our mounts on the engine here. I wanted to show you something real quick. I put a washer in each one, and that's for mock-up. When this all gets welded in with this in this position, when you take that washer out for final assembly, that'll allow the ears to move in a little bit when you tighten it. But when you take the bolt out, it'll relax a little bit. It'll allow the mount to go in and out easily without having to force it in. If you don't use a washer, you tighten all this. Obviously, when you weld things and heat, things contract and expand. So this just gives you a little bit of wiggle room for mocking stuff up and before final assembly. So, should be just 3 bolts real quick. I think we're just going to use the same hardware, because why not? As long as these are long enough. Hopefully these things fit. I did just snug this bolt. Snug enough that it will kind of hold in place, but we can still move it around if we need to. Surprisingly, that fit. All right. Again, these things were like 35 bucks off of Amazon. They're nothing special. I'll leave a link in the description below. They had really good reviews, so I figured we'd try and see what happens. Bolt the other one on real quick. And then also we need to pull our old mount plates out. When I got those brackets all out, powder coated bolts are fun. Went in here with a grinder, kind of cleaned everything up. In preparation for getting this thing in here, I'm hoping we'll get lucky and it'll just sit on this cross member. The brackets will. I don't know what's going to happen. We might have to come in here with a plate this way and then mount our tabs this way. I don't know. We'll see. Again, I'm trying to get this thing low enough, back far enough, but not too far that we hit the firewall, but still have enough clearance to get a radiator. I don't know. There's a lot riding on getting this kind of figured out. But I think we're ready for a first test fit. So I'm just going to shove this thing in here and see what happens. should have had this angled a little different. Can we? A little better. Down a little, but not much. Oh, it's going to be tight. Well, we're hitting everything. What if we took our strap back off? No. All right, let me get the floor jack under the trans. See if I can pick the trans up and get it to clear. I'm not sure it's going to. Now let's lift in the cap. And we're sitting on the mount on the other side. Well, now what? I'm not sure these mounts are going to clear. We're pretty well wedged on the oil pan now. I guess I should have done this without the transmission installed, so I could drop it straight in, which that'll be a hassle. So I know it's hard to see, but the transmission's sitting against the cab. Oil pan sitting on the cross member. And if you look at the motor mount, they're wider than the frame rail is. So now I don't know what to do. I'm gonna have to think about this for a minute. All right, I couldn't jack the transmission up enough because it was hitting the body in order to clear the front of the oil pan because it's all squared off. That is an aftermarket, I think it's a 7-quart pan. You can see it was hitting here and here. So I'm gonna pull the transmission back off. Then I'm gonna leave the bell housing and try to put the engine in straight up and down. I did take the other side motor mount off, engine mount off, to see if we can get clearance. This is what I have, so hopefully I can make them work. I don't really want to have to get something else if I don't have to, but we will see. It's 4 bolts to take the engine or the transmission off the engine. So let me pop that off real quick. We'll reset the hoist and try to get this thing in here. All right, transmission back off. Left the bell housing. Hopefully we make that fit. All right, the engine mount off of the other side. It's sitting fairly level on the hoist. Let's try this again. Roll straight. All right, been messing with this thing for a few minutes. I can't get it any lower to get it back farther, any farther. I put a chunk of 3/16 scrap between the oil pan and the cross member, so we have a little bit of clearance there. We have clearance back here. We can go back a little farther, but unfortunately we're hitting the body. I was hoping not to cut the body, but I think we're gonna have to. I also went inside and kind of pulled some of the rubber mat back, and there's a bunch more rust in that floor than we thought, which really isn't a surprise. But so we're gonna have to do floor work anyway. Apparently we're getting a custom tunnel or building a tunnel or something. So this has to go back at least, we can go back probably 3/4 of an inch. I think we need that at least. So this notch that we notched out to make the front end fit, this is obviously not done and official. We're just trying to make the front end go on. This bar essentially fits right into that notch, and from here to there is about 1.5 inches. And if you measure, we're right at 7 inches excuse me, to the water pump bolts. So once the front end is on and those brackets are in, we have 5.5 inches of clearance. I don't know what radiator we're gonna use, if we're gonna get one for 59, or I have a Summit brand aluminum 4-row with fans for a C10. If we can make that fit, I will. It is right at 5.5 inches. So we need as much clearance in front of this engine as we can get. Basically, that means we're cutting into the body. I didn't want to, but here we are. So I'm going to make a couple marks on the firewall to kind of give us a reference. Pull the engine back out again. Take this up in the air. Cut a chunk of metal out. And then we're right back to here again. Okay, we got our body firewall cut out, enough room, enough clearance now, I think, to get this thing mounted. We can always trim a little bit more if we need to for, you know, movement and all that, but we are doing a solid mount, so it shouldn't move too much. Going up and down several times, I did confirm that our frame is still at roughly a 1/2 degree angle. And then I have it set up now at, it's sitting on our little 1/2-inch block in the front, like I had talked about, and sitting on the floor jack in the back. So our carb is at that same 1/2 inch. If we set up the frame perfectly level when we do the suspension, excuse me, our carb will be sitting level, which puts our engine at 3.5 degrees back. So 3 degrees angle compared to the frame. So I think this is where it's going to end up. So I think I have this thing set where it needs to be. Again, we have a 1/2 inch block sitting under the front. We have enough room, enough clearance for our steering. We are as close as we can get, really, I think, to the firewall. There's just a little bit of space. Let me get the light here. Got plenty of room for our distributor. Hopefully there's enough room for a radiator and fans. We'll have to play with that later. I also spent a little time making sure this thing's like even. If you go off the boss here where the motor mount plate goes to, we are right at 2 1/8 of an inch. And directly under this head bolt, we're roughly 2 7/8. And it's the same on that side. So we are square to the frame as well. So I think now it's basically time to start figuring out these brackets. Kind of thinking of some ideas here. Thought about going to the frame rail itself. Excuse me, because the motor mounts are too wide. They're a little bit wider than the inside of the frame rail. I thought I was just going to build a plate and just make smaller tabs to go in there, but I can't really go straight to the frame rail. The front here has this little bit of an indentation. It would be a pain to try to shape to that, as well as I can't angle out to the bottom of the frame rail, like essentially this way, where the cross member bolts on is right in the way. So they're going to end up that way, kind of goofy. The tabs are going to angle in, but I don't really have a choice. It's just the way it's going to end up. And of course, there's no room in there, so I can't really show you anything. But I think what we're going to try to do is cut this tab out of cardboard, make a bunch of measurements, and that way we can cut the cardboard out and trim it down and down and down until it kind of fits. Remember, it's got, essentially it's going to come down off of the motor mount itself. It's going to sit on the lip of the frame, drop down, and then come down at an angle. So we got to figure kind of all that out. I don't want to cut this and have it end up being wrong, and then we're going to have to make one of these again in order to make something that fits. So we're going to start with cardboard. I'm going to cut this out real quick, draw it out, cut it out, try to measure as much stuff as I can to kind of get us a shape, and see if we can get this thing welded in there. Make sense? Makes sense to me. All right, now the hard part. I got this piece cut out. Same basic shape as our tab. I got to see if I can figure out a way to line all this up. I need to find the distance between the bolt hole and where the frame actually is, so we can base our measurements off of that. Let me get around this side here. Of course, there's a tire right in my way. I don't know if I can actually see anything in here. Not very well. Let's go with 2 1/4, I think, is a little high, which would be a little long, which is perfect. Also, when I set this down in there, straight up and down, with this lined up where I need it, the edge of the frame is right there at that line, which is 5/8 of an inch. So let's start with those measurements. We'll go five-eighths of an inch. We put the square away, didn't we? And then we need, what was it, 2 1/4? Is that what I said?
I think you said 2 1/4.
I'll double check. Let's make a mark here. I'm gonna go 2 3/8. I should probably be using an ink pen instead of.
Can we get one? There's one on the toolbox.
We will in a minute. So 2. I'll mark that all wrong anyway. 2 3/8 is where we need to start. All right, I'm gonna grab an ink pen instead of this so it's not so thick. There's our workbench here. So this is 5/8 of an inch over. I'll mark it here as well. Five-eighths. Oh, look, we have a straight edge. And then this guy, how are we gonna do that? I need this to be square. Don't know that it is. Essentially, that's where we need to cut out for the frame rail itself. So this will be gone. And then we need to figure out what our angle needs to be. How the heck do we do that? Really probably should have took this tire off. Let's set this straight. Need to figure out hold this for a second, please. This distance. Let's go. Let's just start with an inch and go from there. So this will make sense here in a minute, hopefully. All right, so that goes there. Measure down. An inch from here. Connect those 2 points. course, I put the straight edge down to do that, to grab a different straight edge. Let's start with that, see what that does. It's hard to tell because I don't have the hole in here, so I can't stick a bolt through. I could try to do that. I think looks. Oh, I did screw that up though, just a little bit. What I didn't think about was the 1/8 inch for the frame. You're not going to be able to see anything really. Angle seems pretty good though. All right, let me try to cut this hole out and see if that'll line up. Be right back. All right, got our hole for our bolts. And everything seems to fit pretty good. I don't know if you can get the camera in from this side. But if you look towards the inside, our angle's off just a little bit. So we need to leave it just a hair long on that side. Now, we transfer this to metal with the Sharpie. I think essentially we're just going to go to the corner instead. And where our straight edge go? There's no good way to do this. Let's see here. Our workbench is not big enough. All right, let's try cutting that out and see what it does. Hopefully it fits.
Hopefully.
All right, I got my piece made. A little bracket cut out. I know this is hard to see and there is a little gap at this far side. But if I push down on it, it does clean up that gap or close that gap. Let me try to. So we'll just have to make sure this is pushed in when we do tack it into place and weld it. Luckily there's a little bit of wiggle room in our bolt hole. And I did confirm that it fits in the other spots. So now I'm going to cut out 3 more of these. We'll bolt all this back together and see about welding these things in finally. Hopefully get this engine mounted once and for all. What do you do with those tabs? I don't even know. All right, got all our brackets cut out. I don't know, again, this is really hard to show, but if you look from the back here, you can get it down in there.
Hey, it's bracket.
And it is lifted off the back a little bit, but I can push it down really easily when I go to tack it into place. And up here, still sitting at a roughly 1/2 degree. So I think all that's left now is to tack it. Try to get in there and get some hefty tacks on there so they'll stay in place, hopefully. Then we'll have to pull the engine out and re-bolt the motor mount back in there with the washer. Washer's in there now, again, that spacer. And we'll probably have to figure out like a little gusset or something. Something to keep it from wanting to do this.
Yeah.
And yeah, so got the welder rolled over here. This side with the fuel pump's going to be a little difficult. The other side, I think there's some room. Again, there is a little bit of wiggle room in those bolt holes, so if they're off a little bit, I'm not too concerned. If you watch this channel at all, nothing we do is that precise. I ain't even level side to side. I just eyeballed it. It'll be all right. All right, where's all my stuff? That guy around to something. Now let the bolt. And here's my stick right there. Did we turn the gas on?
I did not. I thought you were. Hey, gas is on.
How do we always forget that? Now the hard part. This tire is very inconvenient. I don't know if that got it because the gun's pointed down. The thing's not switching. I think we're good. I think we're good enough to line it back up if we need to.
Okay.
All right. Probably have to twist that thing around. Can you see anything at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can the camera see anything at all, or is it just you?
No, it looks like
That's the question.
I mean, unless everybody's blind.
I am.
I got my contacts in.
I don't know that I did anything on that one. How about that?
Yeah. The front one, not the back one. Ow.
All right. Get that. Okay. All right, we're gonna unbolt the mounts. Again, we have to take one mount out actually to get the engine out. Get the engine out, fully weld. We'll figure out some gussets. Try to attempt to make it strong. or it'll just rip all those tabs off. Where's the other extra roll? That's the washer.
I think it just like fell out of the tire
Good. There's the other washer. And the spacer. Yep. Well, this one bracket's not really on there. We may end up having to pull both mounts off.
Okay.
You're good? Good. That way. Good.
Driver's side's down a little more.
I don't know how I got this side so uneven. Whatever. Them are some ugly welds. It's all right. Not gonna go anywhere.
Not a beauty pageant.
This is what we ended up with. Should do the trick just fine. I did end up with a bigger gap here than I thought, and I was gonna just fill it up with weld, but decided not to, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. Just went with a plate across the front, so these are all welded on 3 sides. I thought about doing a little extra gusset on the side, but I don't think it's really necessary. And like I had said before, the bolts have a little bit of wiggle room in them, so there is a little bit of play there. And I did weld all these up with this, the washer in as a spacer. So you can see how the mounts will slide in and out easily. And of course, those will come in a little bit when you tighten. So I think next step now is to put the engine back in, I think for the final time, at least for now. It'll probably have to come back out at some point just because that's the way it works. The other hard part is, because of our clearance issues, I don't think we can go back and down. I think the bell housing and whatnot's gonna hit the body. So I think we're gonna have to set these mounts in place, get the engine in, and then bolt the mounts to the block as well as the bolt through the frame tabs. So that's gonna be a bit of a headache, but you know, you run into custom stuff, this is kind of what happens. Yeah, so let's get this thing in here. I think we're gonna go ahead and slam the transmission back on to the bell housing now that we have the body cut out, to make it a little easier than trying to put it up and in after the fact. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm gonna set these in place.
Okay.
I'm not gonna put a nut or anything, so we can actually pull it out easily. Find all the bolts that I took out of the block. Have those ready. And I think we're ready to go. Here we go. Stop there. Down more. Yes. All right, got all these bolts tightened up. That is a hassle trying to reach down in there around everything. I'm dreading doing it with fenders and front clip and all that stuff on, but it is what it is. It's also up in the air right now. Obviously our angle is way off now. I wanted it set at the right angle when we mounted all the motor mounts, but again, there's some wiggle room there with the bushings and all that. So final set for that will be crossmember, transmission crossmember, and height and side to side and all that. And I think we're doing that next. Ready?
Sure.
Take the hoist out of the way, get this thing up in the air. See if we can get that figured out.
All right.
All right. Getting ready to start figuring out the trans crossmember. I think we're gonna have to cut more of the body. I only cut inside, so this is the panel, obviously, that would be removable normally. I cut inside of that, and then I had to cut up the firewall a little bit. Looks like we're gonna have to come back to go around the tail shaft housing here. I guess we can jack this up and see where it ends up. Well, I know we're gonna have to cut it, because the shifter plate actually goes right there. Let's see how we end up here. Okay, we are almost straight, and we're looking for roughly 3 degrees. And we're at 6. So we have a long way to go. So we get a marker. I think we're gonna have to go all the way back to probably here, probably just inside of these bolts. We'll cut another square out, and that's gonna be a problem for another day. Oh, more cutting. I was hoping not to have to cut the body at all, but here we are. Let's lay a rag over this because I think I tore the tape.
Okay.
Bar trying to fly your direction. Well, I guess we just push that up out of the way for now. All right, let's get the cross member bolted onto it.
Okay.
And then we'll jack it up into place.
No. It's right here.
Okay, double check again. Still at 0.2. 6.6. That's an issue. It's trying to fall off there. Huh. That's gonna have to go way up in there. We're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a problem with drive shaft, cross member, all that. So we are not close to where we need to be. 5 degrees. Four degrees. All right, well, it looks like I'm cutting that piece out too.
Maybe building a tunnel all the way back.
Maybe. Well, I got the engine down as far as I could go.
Yeah.
So if you look up here, let me grab the light. I literally have a finger, less than a finger width.
Yeah.
I can't bring the front of the engine down anymore. I just can't. So we ran into this on the C10 now. Also, remember it contacted the body at the back of the cab.
Yeah.
All right. You know, every single step we take, it gets harder and harder. I don't know what to do about that cross member though.
Oh, because it's so high up.
Yeah, because remember this axle's going to end up here. And again, we're not even close here. We need to be 3-ish degrees.
You said we're at 4?
We're at 3.7, but we're going to contact the up here. We're going to contact the U-joint as well.
That's why I figured do a tunnel.
I think we're going to have to. Back to here. So do we cut that out now?
Possibly.
Or maybe we just cut back to here for now, and then we'll figure it out.
That probably wouldn't hurt. Just be careful because that seat and the blanket is right there.
All right, more cutting.
I'll watch. It's raining garbage.
3.1 degrees. And we're at 0.3 here. All right, I think we need it under the cross member though, because I want to compress the mount.
Okay.
I want to do one on each side. So we can get the two sides even. As in keeping our cross member level.
Yeah.
Again, we are at 0.2, 3 exactly. So we can actually come down. Oh, that was not actually doing anything. Come down just a bit. How do we? Three. Point 1. So now I need the tape measure, wherever I put it now. Two and 7/8. Down a little bit. That's 2 and 15/16. 2 and 15/16. And 3.2 degrees versus 0.2 degrees. So now cross member is level in the chassis, and the drivetrain is 3 degrees down compared to the chassis. Oh, all right, so now the brackets, drill 4 holes, go inside. So this cross member is from Tremec. I don't know that Tremec makes it, but I bought the like the full swap kit or whatever it's called for a C10, and I'm assuming this is a cross member they use in a lot of their kits because it's obviously a little bit modular. And this up so it's kind of snug. And then we can mark our holes. And then I don't know if you noticed, but it's the whole thing's off to this side a little bit. But again, these are slotted and modular, so we can adjust it side to side before we tighten everything down. I know it looks crooked, but the lift is actually a little bit crooked, so the entire thing's sitting off just a hair. Don't let your eyes fool you. That area, and that area, it's crooked this way, so we'll probably, oh, there we go. my thing go? Here it is. Two. 3.1. All that good enough. Actually, we can come down a hair on this side. 3.1. 3.2. Okay. As far as front to back, I just lined up with a big hole in the frame. You see that? There's one on each side. Just kind of eyeballed it so it's sitting this way square. So, time to drill some holes.
We'll supervise.
All right. Watch your ears.
You did it.
Okay. It's amazing what new drill bits will do. Point 4. And 3.2. So we're 2.8 degrees, give or take. Of course, this isn't exact science, but see now it says 3.3. And that says 3.1. So, I mean, it's close, very close. And again, this measurement is important. We need to match the rear end to it, which was the whole point of all this. Man, what a pain in the neck. Now what?
I don't know.
I think we're done. Let's drop it back down, see what it looks like up top, see if we have clearances where we need clearances, and I guess that'll be a fight for another day when we don't, because like this and that. And we'll see what happens back there. Okay. Okay, so finger width or so, plenty of room for the distributor. The oil pan spaced up off the cross member. We have plenty of room for the steering arm. I think everything did shift that way slightly, but not a lot, like 1/8 of an inch, not a big deal. Yeah, I think it's gonna work out well. Plenty of room for power steering. Lower radiator hose will be a little funky. We'll have to get into that. When we have to change this fuel pump, since we change fuel pumps all the time, that's gonna be a nightmare. But other than that, not too bad. Where'd these tape measures go? Remember I mentioned earlier the radiator and fan setup I currently have is roughly 5.5 inches. And we have, if you count the 1.5 inches there, we have about, with the eyeball, about 8 inches. So minus the 1.5 inches. This, what, 6.5?
Yeah.
So we have roughly 1 inch between the fan and the water pump pulley, which is tight, but I think we can make it work. You know what we didn't do?
What?
We didn't center the cross member, but we didn't tighten that either.
Nope.
So I left the brackets where the cross member bolts onto the brackets. I left those just hand tight. So we'll center the transmission between the frame rails before we tighten those down. I just forgot. All right, is that it?
I think so.
Look, there's an instrument transmission installed.
Yay!
Exhaust is going to be a nightmare. Radiator is going to be a nightmare. Trying to figure out how to mount this front clip is going to be a pain. But this needed to get done before we could do the front clip and before we could do the rear end, and I'm still trying to decide what we're doing with suspension. So I don't know when this video is going to come out. It might be late, unfortunately. A little behind the scenes. Our daughter got married last weekend. So we've been having family and all that stuff in town. And obviously family's more important than coming out here and working in the shop. So I do apologize if this is late, which it might be, probably will be. Anyway, other than that, I think we've made a lot of headway with this thing. Front frame rails in and narrowed, engine and transmissions mounted. We cut a gigantic hole. You want to look at that real quick? We're gonna have to build a tunnel, I think.
Yeah, way underneath the seat at this point.
Yeah, that smaller square plate is also a location for shifter, so we can go there. Although this is probably going to get bucket seats that I have. But everything kind of hung off of this. So now we can figure out steering and exhaust and front clip, like I said, rear end, like I said, all that stuff. And now I'm rambling on like I tend to do. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you guys very much. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I read all your comments. They're awesome. You guys are loving this project, and so are we. And you got anything to add?
Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next time.